Stay-at-home mom 34F goes back to work after 7 years. 44M wants money back. What should she do? I am 34F and have been married for 8 years to my husband 47M. When we got married, I got pregnant pretty quickly. We didn't have a plan in place for childcare. Initially he had told me that his father wanted to take care of the baby as he was retired and was really looking forward to bonding with his grandchild. After having the baby I quickly realized this would not work because of certain health conditions my father-in-law had. When we started looking at daycare in the area, it turned out that the daycare cost more than I made. I suggested we tried looking a little bit further out as daycare costs were cheaper in more urban areas, or even home daycares, but my husband would not hear of it. He kept insisting I should stay home with the baby, saying we couldn't trust home daycares and he didn't want to look into cheaper daycares. I stayed home for about 2 years when I got pregnant again. After many arguments I ended up staying home for 7 years until the youngest could start school. My husband would give me kind of an allowance of about $375 a week, and from that I paid for groceries, my gas, car insurance and anything the children and I would need, such as clothes, medicines, etc. It was really tough, especially as inflation increased. I knew my husband could not afford any more, so I ended up running up my CC. Now I am back to work making $48K per year. I am still paying the same things as before and about 20% rent, plus internet and cable bills, while my husband takes care of 80% rent and helps out here and there with the kids. The thing is, now he is asking me to pay him back for the money he has given me over the years, and I don't think that is fair as I am currently in debt because of our arrangement, and it wasn't something I wanted to do. He calls me ungrateful for pointing out it was his decision, and because I stayed home we saved money. What do you think? Any advice for me? Financial abuse is abuse. Call a lawyer and send him the bill for the divorce and child support for the next 10 or so years. I can guarantee you it will be the same or more than what he gave you each week. He wanted you home so you had no money except what he gave you. Now you have a job and he still wants to control you. You do realize that you are in an abusive marriage, right? He trapped you at home, financially controlled you, and now wants to trap you again with a non-existent debt to make you stay. Give him an equal bill for housekeeping services, cooking services, shopping, secretarial services for apps, childcare, laundry, sexual services, etc., etc. My advice is directed to him. Dude, they're your kids too. If you'd paid for daycare, you wouldn't be getting the money back. You didn't make this conditional on never working again, and you can't add terms and conditions retroactively. Are you married or are you just business partners? My boyfriend, 26 male, put his hands on me, 19 female, this morning. Can you guys give me advice? This morning, my boyfriend, 26M, and I, 19F, woke up so peacefully, had sex, and went into the kitchen to make some coffee and breakfast before I went to my classes. We were talking while the coffee was brewing and then he starts shadow boxing me. He boxes and was pretending to punch me, while I was standing there asking him over and over again to please stop doing that because I don't like any form or representation of domestic violence. I have a hard boundary about anything close to or representing domestic violence, whether it be verbal or physical. Anyways, he was shadow boxing me and I asked him 4 times nicely to please stop doing that and that I don't like that or put up with that kind of thing. The 5th time I told him I'm dead serious and he better stop now. It was almost as if he was deaf to my requests, and whole time I never even raised my voice to him. He continued to shadow box me after I told him I was dead serious about it, and when he didn't stop that 5th time, I took a glass full of water and doused him with the whole thing in his face. Then I stormed off to his room. He then came to the room and told me that I needed to clean up that mess. I told him it's not my mess to clean up and that it's just the consequences of his actions of not listening to me the first 4 times I asked him to stop. Eventually, I got up from the bed I was sitting on. Mind you, the mattress is all the way on the floor. I get up and he shoved me hard as hell back on the bed in an aggressive way. I get up again and he does the same thing again. Then I tell him he ruined the date I had planned for later today and that I'm leaving. Then he takes my bag of clothes and hides it across the house. I go to the kitchen looking for my bag, and this whole time we're screaming at each other. Then he shoves me again and screams at me to get the fuck out of his life. I go to leave his house and he won't let me leave, and he's holding my property hostage. Eventually I get out of the house and get into my car, but he then brings my bag back but takes my phone to get me to come back inside. I take his glasses off his face so he gives me my phone back, and he damn near smashes my phone on the floor. Eventually he brings my phone and he gets his phone and glasses from my car and is trying to talk with me and reason with me. It's difficult because this is a deal breaker to me. I always vowed that if a man ever put his hands on me that I'm leaving the first time and not sticking around for a next time, because if I stay they're gonna think it's okay. His behavior was extremely erratic and toxic and almost scary because he's a boxer and could seriously hurt me if he wanted to. In general, he's the sweetest person, but he sometimes has these episodes of acting crazy and neurotic. We're already going through things in our relationship and I just don't know if he's good for me. Especially now that he put his hands on me, I can't, out of respect for myself, tolerate that and return to him. I started crying in the car and told him that now I'm gonna be scared of him, which he would hate for that to happen, but that's what happens when you put your hands on a female. That's a big no-no and a subsequent deal breaker. I know I deserve so much better, I just don't know if this is stuff that every couple goes through and if it's somewhat normal in healthy relationships. Would it be healthy to leave or stay? Too long did not read. My boyfriend disregards my requests for him to stop shadow boxing my face and he doesn't listen, so I splash a cup of water on him. We get into an altercation where he shoves me 3 times and then holds my property hostage and doesn't let me leave his house. I eventually leave and I don't know whether I should leave him or try and work it out in our relationship. Update. Thank you guys for all the responses. And also I appreciate the devil's advocates calling me out on the water thing. Y'all are right, I could have walked away. It was in the heat of the moment and what's done is done. I'm glad it happened though, because now both of us have a burden lifted off of us and it was a dead-end relationship anyways. Thank you all for your support and feedback. Definitely a learning experience. I'm leaving him and I'm not looking back. It's time, I'm grateful, and on to better things. Peace. I posted this looking for confirmation that I should leave him and leave no room to second guess my decisions of leaving. It is a hard boundary and I'm going to enforce that. It would be disrespectful to myself and victims of domestic violence to stay and condone abuse. As for anybody reading this going through something similar, I suggest you leave too. There is too much love to find and experience to ever settle for anything less than the best. The thing about deal breakers is they have to actually be a deal breaker. Your boyfriend committed acts of domestic violence, pushing you, preventing you from leaving, throwing your phone, belongings. If domestic violence is a deal breaker, then your relationship is over. The fact that you would even consider staying with him means domestic violence is not a deal breaker. Your boyfriend won't change or stop doing these things, he will only escalate. If you stay, you are sending a very loud and very clear message to him that his behavior is acceptable. It is not something that every couple goes through, and is a scary sign of things to come. It is in no way normal in a healthy relationship. Please, for your own safety, leave. My boyfriend, 26M, and I, 19F. Heaves the deepest, most earth-shattering sigh. Of course. Every time. Anyways, yes, he's abusive. Leave. No, there isn't any other option. Didn't it occur to you as to why a 26-year-old is with a 19-year-old? He can't find a woman his age to deal with his ass. Look at how he's treating you. None of that was normal. Please leave him, finish your studies, and never look back. Not even a glance. It's difficult because this is a deal breaker to me. It's not difficult. He was pushing your boundaries to see what you'd tolerate. Don't go back. You did absolutely the right thing. He's really sweet most of the time except for when he beats me, is another way of saying, he beats me. Edit. I've been with my wife for 30 years and in all that time it has never even occurred to me to put my hands on her like that. It would, in fact, be unthinkable to me. What you described is not normal. I 43 female regret telling my husband 44 male or neighbor 33 female could stay over while I'm gone. I'm in a strange situation. I, 43 female, have been married to my husband, 44 male, for 11 years. Right now I'm on a 2-week-long business trip. A few days ago a wild fire broke out near our house. It grew huge and is still thousands of acres. We were not evacuated, but our neighbor, 33 female, was. Her house is on a different street, but our backyards join. My husband asked me if he could volunteer our house to have her stay over and I said yes. It made sense, she could stay close by to her house, our animals are friendly with each other, etc. She accepted the offer and she's been staying at our house. But now I'm starting to feel uncomfortable with it. It made so much sense at first. Now I'm thinking about it more and it makes me feel strange having another woman at my house when I'm not. But I've already agreed to it. By all accounts it seems like the situation is getting under control and this will no longer be necessary by the time the weekend is over. Do I talk to my husband and make him have an awkward conversation with her about how she needs to find different shelter for herself, her pets and her kids? Or do I just deal with it for a few more days? I vote for letting it go for another couple days. You offered shelter to someone who needed it. You either trust your husband or don't. Have a talk with your husband when you get back about your fears. Having read through the comments, I know that there's a history of cheating, but you immediately said yes initially without any hesitation. You must trust him now, right? It didn't pop straight into your head that he would cheat again. That's a good sign. Are you friendly with this woman? Kicking her out now may ruin your relationship with her. I mean, if he was attracted to her, surely he could have been getting it on with her before this anyway. They could have been having sex at her house all along. Is there any history here, or are you paranoid? You are aiding a woman, her kids and her animals during a crisis. Rein yourself in if you can. Your husband is the cause of your anxiety, which you will have to address by seeking a therapist or dumping him, because you clearly aren't over the cheating. Believe me, this neighbor is not partying at your house, she's worried about literally losing everything. Don't add to her misery right now. This is unhinged levels of paranoia. She hasn't done anything but exist as a woman for you to want her kicked out. If you don't trust your husband of 11 years to not have sex with your neighbor who just lost her house, I'm not sure what to tell you. I think you need to make sure that she has a safe place to stay when she leaves this weekend. You and your husband invited her into your home. It sounds like your husband thought it up, and you agreed, before inviting her in. Kicking her out now, without reason, especially if she and her children will be gone in a few days, is just a fucked up move and will ruin your relationship with your neighbor. My 31M wife, 28F, spent all of our savings on a bad investment without my knowledge? Backstory: we've been together for 10 years now, married for 7. We are a fairly average middle-class family. Wife is a stay-at-home mom and I'm the sole income provider. We have 3 daughters, 6, 3, and 1 on the way. We have a 4-bedroom house with a mortgage. Wife came to me about 18 months ago telling me about an investment opportunity that had came up. Her older brother had a real estate company in which he was flipping houses. He promised 12% returns on the investment. I was skeptical of it knowing his past. Her brother lives a fake lifestyle. He loves to show off rentals and vacations on social media. Wife wore me down after 2 weeks of begging and convincing me. We had $210,000 in savings. I agreed on letting her invest $100K, which is a lot of money for us. Neither of us come from wealth. Everything we have was earned and not given. Wife makes the investment, and I don't really hear anything about it. Fast forward to now, her brother has gone missing and was essentially running a Ponzi scheme. There was a whole thing in the news about him stealing over $6 million from investors. I find out 2 weeks ago that my wife gave him $75K more without my permission or knowledge. So now we are out $175,000, which is unreal to me. Wife is being super apologetic and has been crying and begging me not to leave her. I've sort of been hiding my true emotions since I don't want this to affect her pregnancy and the baby. I have no clue what we're going to do. My brother thinks that I had to divorce my wife since she went behind my back investing the $75K. I agree that the trust is broken. I just don't know how someone who is my everything would betray me like this. As for the money, we're probably never going to recover it. Her brother is probably going to spend it on blow and hookers. I don't think we're going to be able to afford private school tuition for our daughters next year. My job is completely commission-based. I have nothing to fall back on if I have a bad month. I have no clue at all about what to do in this situation. If it comes out scrambled, I apologize, my brain is scattered. I haven't slept in days. I have to keep going and stay strong for my daughters. I tell my wife she is no longer a stay-at-home mom. Once she puts $175,000 into the family savings account, she can revisit her status. You were skeptical and said yes to $100,000? The $75,000 on top of the money her brother stole should be the final straw. How much further are you going to let her wreck your future in your life? I'd be meeting with a lawyer tomorrow if I were in your shoes. Tell her that she has compromised the family's future and her daughter's education. Once this unborn baby becomes school age, she needs to get a job and help you build it back up. This is not negotiable. One person with 3 children in today's economy needs help to maintain the family's lifestyle. She threw away your safety net and now needs to help you regain financial stability and safety. The only possible way to salvage this marriage would be counseling, separate finances, and her getting a job and recovering the money. But I doubt it'd happen. A more realistic approach would be to find a good lawyer and get a divorce. You deserve better. Divorce isn't gonna solve anything. It's not gonna get the money back. Divorce is also very expensive. Don't listen to Reddit, 90% of them are under 20 with no idea about the world. Yes, this is horrible. However, you're not homeless. You are not starving. Your family has their health. The real impact of this is that your lifestyle is identical, but you retire at 65 instead of 55. He stole 10 years. You can work it out with your wife that she gets no spending money for herself for 10 years. It all goes to savings.